Good afternoon. Let's first of all, let's give a big round of applause to all the participants and everyone here. Well, I have all the evaluations and I have to go through them, but everybody did a fantastic job. It has been really amazing. And now it is my privilege and honor to introduce the keynote speaker for this afternoon. And that is Dr. Sanyal, Dr. Sanjoy Sanyal. So he has come to... He has come to MUA after, say, around 2 decades of experience in medical education and academia. So he has been a very valuable person here at the faculty and a great teacher, great professor. And I asked him, what should I talk about you? I'm supposed to introduce you. And he said, like, just tell what you know, what you have seen here. He has been a great person, great professor, and that's what I've seen, because there's so many things he has done in the past, so we just cannot put them in the introduction. With anything else, like I'm just introduced Dr. Sanjoy Sanyal.
Thank you very much, Ravi. Thank you everybody for being here with me. It's been a pleasure to be here with you. It really is a pleasure. You would have noticed something about me. What did you notice? Everything is contrasting. Yes, it was purposely designed that way. Because what I'm going to talk about today now is not about biological sciences, not about biological sciences in medicine, but about the role of technological systems and how they apply to medical education and how they apply in a hospital practice. And I'll give you 3 examples of the 3 projects that I've worked on. Okay. So let's start the day with something which was taught to me when I was in my Royal College of Surgeons, the very first week of my first year. What is known as the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. So there was this far-off universe, and the scientists of that far-off universe one day decided to build the 2nd largest supercomputer in the universe. They designed it. And after they designed the supercomputer, they asked the ultimate question to the supercomputer. Tell us what is about life. Tell us everything about death. Tell us about everything about everything. Because after all, you're a supercomputer. So the supercomputer said, okay, I'll tell you, it'll take a little time. So no problem, so we'll wait. Well, several years passed by. Scientists every year, they kept on coming to the supercomputer and asked, did you find the answer yet? Said, no, just wait. It'll take a little more time. It'll take a little more time. Well, one generation disappeared, another generation disappeared. Still, like that, 1,000 years passed by. 40 generations. The computer was still thinking the answer. And at last the computer came out with the answer, said, I'm ready. So all the descendants of the previous scientists, they all got together. Hey, the computer's got the answer. Let's get ready. He's going to tell us about life, death, and everything in the universe. The computer warned them. You may not like the answer. But still, tell us the answer. 42. What do you mean 42? 42 what? Well, what was your question? So, this is a silly story. The moral of the silly story is, if you ask a silly question, you will get a silly answer. I think that is a message to many people, isn't it? Yes. Okay, so, before we start on any project, any research, we must have the first item, that is, to frame a focused, precise research question. And I'm going to show you what that research question will be for any particular. And that's when, to finish the story, the scientists then decided to build the largest computer in the world, and that is the planet Earth. And the planet Earth was designed to find out what the question is. Most of us don't even know the question, we look for answers. So the first rule of any research is have a focused research question in mind. Not something like, how do we do this or how do we do that? No, it has to be something focused. The next rule of research is any research project should have the SMART objectives. What is a SMART objective? It should be simple, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. With these guidelines, I'm going to tell you briefly about 3 projects. One is a beta testing which I have performed on a technological system in an education setting, and 2 clinical systems which I have devised. One is about cardiovascular risk assessment, the other is the staging of breast cancer. So let's get on with it. Before I start telling you about technological systems, I need to briefly define to you what is a system. In a very basic thing, system is a generic term. Human body is a system, the universe is a system, the sun is a system, you are a system, your organs are systems, everything is a system. Now, how do we define a system? In a way which is applicable to everything. A system is something which takes an input, which does the processing. It may store it in the memory, okay, but after it's done the processing, it gives an output. And the whole thing is enclosed within a finite boundary. That is a system. And everything about a system we can answer by means of the 5 W's and 1 H. Why, what, when, where, who, and how. So this is a typical example of just an appointment system in a doctor's office. Everything is a system, and if you boil it down to this simple rule, you will find that we can apply this rule to just about anything under the sun, including the sun itself. That is what a system is. With this background of system, let's take a few examples of technological systems, because that is going to be the basis of what I'm going to say next. This is a typical information pyramid. As you know, at the top of the pyramid, we have the strategic information, which includes all the decision support systems, the executive information systems. Then next under that, we have the tactical information systems. This is the management information systems. And finally, at the bottom, we have the operational systems. The strategic, let's say, is Dr. Green. The tactical is Dr. Samir. And operational is me. That's the best way to look at it. The strategic people make the topmost decisions. The middle people take care of the middle level decisions. And the operational people carry out the day-to-day activities. Information, this is called the information pyramid. And all information systems are also devised on the same principle, whether it's in a hospital, whether it's in a medical education, or whether it's anywhere else. So to give you examples, in a strategic, the operational systems are the decision support systems, the executive information systems. Then we have the management information systems, and at the grassroots level, on day-to-day hospital working. And some of you will use all these systems when you go to the hospital. We have the clinical EMR, electronic medical record, the electronic health record, the computerized physician order entry, electronic transfer of prescriptions, laboratory information systems. These are some of the systems. Very good system is PACS, picture archiving and communication system. These are all examples of operational systems which you will be using. And some of these I've also had some experience in. So this is what is the information system pyramid, and these are the systems which work in all hospital settings. To go a little further, we have some more systems, like clinical and health information systems. Many clinical systems all feed a common database. Then we have this individual data sets which feed a departmental system, and the departmental system feeds into the hospital system. And finally, we have some other systems, like for example, telemedicine systems. Then we have the task-based systems, and finally we have the simulation systems which are mostly used for research. So these are the various types of systems which are applicable in a hospital setting. And finally, to conclude the list, what about the educational setting like ours? We have systems here also. Many of these systems are applicable even in educational setting, in a medical education. And I'm going to specifically talk about the online examination system, because that's what we did some research on. Like for example, here we have something called Question Mark Live. And I have experience in working in another system called the Inquisitor, which I'll tell you how it worked or how it didn't work. Okay, so this is about systems. Before I proceed with the actual description of how I tested this, I'll have to tell you, because inherent in the testing process is the developmental process. There are several ways of developing these systems, hospital systems or educational systems. The oldest method is called the waterfall method, which is not used very much nowadays. The waterfall method uses the requirements analysis, implementation, design, and again review. But this method is not used anymore. What we use nowadays is known as the prototyping method. Prototyping method, again, there are two types. One is known as the vertical prototyping or the incremental prototyping. And the second one is known as the horizontal or the evolutionary prototyping. And I'm going to give you one example of each of these systems which I have devised just at the end, before the end of mine. To give you a brief outline, the horizontal axis refers to the various modules of a system. And the vertical axis refers to the functionality of the system. So this is vertical prototyping, this is horizontal prototyping. The next important issue about all these systems development is what is known as the iterative reactivated process. When you devise something, remember, it is not perfect. It has to be tried, tested, retried, tested, and this process continues indefinitely till it has reached some level of acceptance. This is called the iterative and reactive process, and then it is released to a limited public for use. The story is still not over yet. I know, this is a very common case. Everybody uses this. So this iterative reactive process is where things fall flat. Before it even reaches the public, for every system that you see and that you use, for example, the little iPhone which you carry in your pocket, you won't believe it, at least 99 such systems were already rejected before the one came into the market. It's always like that. Okay, that brings me to the various types of testing methods. The testing method which I described to you just now is known as the alpha testing, which is done at the site of the program, at the site of the development of the system itself. It is not done by the public, it is done by the programmers themselves. That is known as alpha testing. Once they've reached this alpha testing, only then they reach what is known as acceptance testing. Okay. Then they release it to a limited public for a process what is known as beta testing. Beta testing is done by the public. And that is when you would have seen many cases, those of you who use the internet very frequently would have noticed Yahoo Mail is in the beta phase. Google Plus is in the beta phase. So these are all beta testing. Beta testing means testing by a limited number of public so that you can find glitches. After all, the end users are the ones who are going to be using the system, not the programmers. So that is what is known as beta testing, and this is what we did on, and of course there are many. This is an example of a software which I just saw on the internet. Kaspersky Lab has announced its beta testing. There are various other methods of testing which we shall not bother about, known as acceptance testing and regression testing. Sometimes what happens when we repair software and we release it, we find that it's gone backwards in its functionality. That is called regression testing. Which was the thing which we were testing? In the school which I was working before I came here, that school was about to implement an online examination system. Just like we have question mark live here, that school was trying to implement this system known as Inquisitor. So I was the principal investigator. They asked me to do a testing on this to see whether it is functional or not. We shall not go into the details. It's very simple. This is just a screenshot of some of the questions which were given to the students. We just used a very simple format. What are the various ways? Now let's come back to the first point which I was mentioning. Before we start, we should have a focused research question. What was my question here? My question was the usability of the system. How easy is it for me to use the system? That is the question I want answered. The next question. Does it make my work easier? Just because a soft system is there doesn't necessarily mean my work is going to get easier. If it makes my work easier, only then I can say that the system is useful. So for either of these things, either to test the usability or the usefulness, how easy is it for me to use the system, and does it make my work easier? These two factors, in order to implement these two, the users have to be involved. Therefore, user involvement in any system development is a must, and this is the whole crux of the beta testing system. And this is what we did on that Inquisitor software, which I told you, that examination system. Now that brings me to the next point. What are the various usability testing tools? Well, there are several. Now here I'll share something about what I know about students, because after all, my subjects were students. They are going to be testing it for me on my behalf. I know the student's attention span does not exist beyond 20 items. So I decided that items with 27 and 100 are out. They will not like to use any tool which makes them answer more than 20 questions. The ones which had only these 12, 5, 6, 10, 13 items, that's also not very good for me. So ultimately, I selected on one testing instrument known as the Computer System Usability Questionnaire. This is a tried and tested system in the IBM computer labs, and this is the system which I used. This had only 19-item questionnaire. So this is the one I used. Okay, that brings me to the next point. These are the questions. There were 19 questions in a standard 7-item Likert scale. 1 to 7. Strongly disagree to strongly agree. The middle 4 being ambiguous, neither agree nor disagree. There were 19 questions. These 19 questions had to be fed in a format which I could give to the students and ask them to answer it. I don't like the paper and pencil because that is Stone Age. So I hunted around and I found a very simple and easy to use software. The demo version, as you would have noticed, because I didn't have any money with me and I was not about to spend any money on my own, so I picked the demo version. I think our chairman of the research committee will like this. This demo version already had plenty of med-psych features fed into it. You would have noticed. Yes, this actually has plenty of psychology stuff in it. So what I did was I fed those 19 questions into the software. And you can see it came up. Computer System Usability Questionnaire. It's a beautiful one. Well, I was the administrator and I was also the first test person, so I gave myself a random name. And then, next point, giving the instructions to the students. The students were getting jittery. Oh my God, you're going to test us? I don't know, I don't remember anything about the heart. Relax, relax, relax. I'm not testing you. So they had to be told all these things. Look, I'm not testing you. You can write anything wrong or right. There are no wrong answers, no right answers. We are testing the system, not you. Oh, really? Okay. No, I don't trust you. Okay, relax. Okay, relax. We are going to keep your name anonymous. It's essential that the students have to be kept anonymous. Yes, they were sure that this is only for statistical purposes. Your names are not going to come out. The next item is very quick. You will finish it in less than 5 minutes. And actually, you'll see that they all finished in less than 1 minute. So after all these instructions were given to the students, this is a typical screenshot of one question. As you can see, question number 1, this is the question, and these 7 options were there. They just had to click on any one of the options. Immediately it changed to the second question, third question, fourth question. It took them less than 1 second to do each. And within less than 1 minute, they completed all the 19 questions. This was a beautiful system for us because it automatically generated a report. And it also very helpfully asked me, do you want it to be exported to an Excel format? I said, yes, definitely, I want it to be exported. So it very helpfully not only thanked me, but also gave its own system-generated report, and at the same time, it exported it in an Excel format, which I'm going to show you just briefly now. Before I show you the result, this was a beta testing of the Inquisitor exam system. The minimum score that a particular student can get if he or she had marked 1, 1, 1, 1 for each would have been 19. And the maximum score that a student could have got was 7 for each. Multiplied by 19 is 133. So we took the lowest limit and the upper limit and we broke it up into 3 ranges. Very simple. We didn't want to make it very complicated. So the upper limit was the group which was totally, and the lowest limit was the group which was totally dissatisfied with the use of Inquisitor. The highest upper group was the one which were totally satisfied, and the middle were the ambiguous ones. And we made some comments about it. Okay, so this was how we graded the 3 groups. Don't get psyched out with these figures. I'm going to break it down. This column gives the total score. Yes, before I proceed any further, I need to assure you that this was not a complete test. That's why I said preliminary result, because I conducted only 2 rounds. Normally I should conduct at least 10 rounds, but we had reached the end of the semester and the exams were coming, and after that I finished my contract and I came over. We could not complete it. So there's only 15 students here. This one gives the total score. And this last row, it gives the question-wise average score. Remember, the average score is out of maximum 7. And this is out of a maximum of 133. So keeping these two figures in mind, let's see what were the test results. The average questionnaire score was 5.3 out of a maximum of 7, which brings it to the range between mildly and moderately agree. And this is the peak. For the total score, the total average was 101, which brings it in the satisfactory category with a mode here. Which means it was, most of the students were satisfied with the use of the system. Reasonably satisfied. Again, this is a preliminary result, therefore we cannot conclude because we have to do more number of tests, which I did not. But this tentatively showed to us that the beta testing on the students was reasonably successful as far as the software, the Inquisitor system was concerned. But the story is yet to continue. This is the item question-wise score. And we noticed that for this question number 9, most of the students scored very low. They just gave 4 points. That means neither agree nor disagree. So we went back and said, why? What is wrong with this question? It showed us, this question was saying the system gave us errors which helped us to solve the problem. Well, that was not the case. The system did not give any errors. The students were being polite to me. They could have marked 1, but instead they marked 4. So that's what I assumed. So anyway, so we disregarded that question. It's not important. We got the ultimate score. So my tentative report, which I filed to the administration, was that perhaps the students are finding it satisfactory. But the story has to be complete. Usability is fine. How easy is it for me to use the system? Okay, it's reasonably useful. But what about the faculty? Is it easy for me? Does it make my work easier? Was my question. This is where we ran into a major disaster. I did not have time to complete this with the faculty, but the first glance itself, even you can make out. Let me go back to the system which we have here. That's called the question mark live. I mean, it's a very beautiful system. I make 75 questions, which people don't like me because of that. I have all those 75 questions in my Word format, and with all the options, with all the 3rd level, 4th level options. And I just, with 2 clicks of a button, I totally export them in one shot into the question mark live. This system did not allow me to do that. This wanted me to feed in each question one by one. First I have to write the stem, then I have to write the options, and then I have to click on the correct option and tell the software, look, this is the correct option, and then I have to click on the add button, and then it will say, okay, 1 question added. Then I have to do the same thing for the second question. By the time I finish 75 questions, it will take me 1 month to do it. No way. So for the faculty, this was not a useful system, which also I mentioned in my report. So you see, if you really carry out a proper beta testing on something, you might find that it may be usable, it may not be useful, or vice versa. This system was usable by the students, but it was not useful for the faculty. So this is what I was trying to emphasize. This is how, so it was a disaster as far as usefulness was concerned. And before I come to the conclusion, I'm not going to show you the conclusion because that's very interesting. I'm going to show you 2 other systems which I have been working on. Okay, I need to put on my... One was... Let me get this. Okay. When I was working in Seychelles, I was in the Ministry of Health, and I was in charge of the breast clinic. On an average, I had to see about 30 to 35 breast cases per day. Of course, not all of them were cancers. Patients had, some of them had cancer, some of them had fibroadenoma, fibroadenosis, fibrocystic disease, and so all sorts of things. Let's focus on the cancers, because the incidence of cancer, unfortunately, very high in Seychelles. Any cancer, those of you who are already in pathology will already know what I'm talking about. Those of you who will go to pathology, any cancer in the human body has got 3 categories. That's the International Union classification. The cancer is staged in terms of T. I'm just giving you a brief background. T stands for tumor. N stands for lymph node. And M means metastasis. So every cancer is first categorized on the basis of T, N, M. And then all these three things are put together, and a Roman numeral number 1, 2, 3, 4 is given to stage the cancer. This is the basic principle. And this is the principle which is applied to all cancers in the human body. Now, here there are a few practical issues which come into the picture. Let's talk about breast cancer, because I was working this. You can have many types of T. T, not palpable tumor, tumor less than 2 centimeters, tumor between 2 and 5 centimeters, tumor more than 5 centimeters, tumor adhering to the chest wall, skin, nipple, etc., etc. So many permutations and combinations are possible. Then you have N, node. Ipsilateral axillary, contralateral axillary, fixed, mobile, supraclavicular, internal mammary, so many types of lymph nodes. Then you have metastasis, liver metastasis, lung metastasis, bone metastasis, brain metastasis. So you see, you have to put so many of these permutations and combinations together and then arrive at the staging. And when you're handling 35 patients, I mean, like my time was 2 to 4 and it used to go until 5 and the sisters would get so angry at me. So you need a quick and a very handy, efficient system to determine the stage of a patient's cancer. And that's what I devised. And I had to think about it for quite some time. And I said, okay, there has to be an easy method. There has to be an easy way of doing things. Otherwise, each time we cannot run to the wall with a big chart hanging on it and say, okay, so your tumor is 2 to 5 centimeters, okay, 2 to 5. You have got an ipsilateral axillary mobile lymph node, okay, ipsilateral axillary mobile lymph node. Okay, you don't have any metastasis, so your stages can stage 2A. Oh, come on, spare me. So this is the system I devised. This is interactive. I'll give you some options. Let's start the staging. Just give me a random figure. First click. In 3 clicks of the mouse, you will get, I've put it all together, so this is actually a very handy system. Give me any option. Tumor, 2 to 5, less than 2? Okay, 2 to 5 centimeters. It'll take me to the lymph node status. Mobile, fixed, supraclavicular, what do you want?
No.
Mobile axillary. Any metastasis? No metastasis. Okay, no known metastasis. Tumor is stage 2. It gives me in one shot. Want to try another one? Give me another option. No palpable tumor. You want to try that? Fixed axillary. You can have any combination. Remember, in any given patient, there is no rule of thumb. You can have anything. So can we take a fixed axillary? No known metastasis. This is stage 3A.
I'm a survivor.
So please go ahead. Tell me what you want. We'll do it for
Greater
you.
than 5.
So let's start the staging. Give me which option do you want?
Greater than 5.
Greater than 5.
No node.
No node.
No metastasis.
Known metastasis. You are stage 3A. So you can try just about any permutation combination. This system will give you in exactly 3 clicks of the mouse. In 3 seconds, it will give you the stage. This is the one I was talking about when I was talking about development of systems, and I was telling you about vertical incremental system. This is a full functional module for breast cancer. Now there are about 250, 300 different cancers. Each of them have the same staging system. I can keep on adding different modules. In fact, what I can do is, theoretically, if I have the time, this took me 3 weeks to design, if I can make the full picture of the human body there. And I can make each and every step of the portion of the human body interactive. Let's say I want to do the cancer staging for lung cancer. Just click on the lung. It's not this one, not the one, I'm just telling you. And it'll take you to the lung cancer module. And you can do the similar staging. You want to do the breast cancer, you want to do the liver cancer, you want to do the intestinal cancer, anything, you name it. So you can add about 250 different modules, and that is a full system. This is just the breast cancer staging. So this is one system which used the example of the vertical incremental prototyping method of developing a technological system in a clinical setting. Now I'll give you another example. And that is, this is even more interesting, which all of you will be able to relate to even more. When I was intern in internal medicine, clinical medicine, we had a cardiology unit. So we used to see all these cardiac patients. There'll be an old man, 67-year-old, and he'll be hypertensive, he'll be hypercholesterolemic, he'll have so many things. And he said, what is the chance I'm going to get a heart attack in the next few days? What do you answer him? Most people, you will get asked these questions very frequently. What do you say? Oh, I think, no, you should be all right. That's all you say, isn't it? So I said, no, there has to be some better method. So this is a cardiovascular risk assessment tool where, well, I'll be able to give you an adjusted risk of developing a cardiovascular event which can be any event, either an ischemic stroke or a myocardial infarction or a tachyarrhythmia or you name it, within the next 5 years, using 5 parameters. For this, I had to use information from American Heart Association, from various textbooks. This is not complete. That's why this is the horizontal evolutionary method. What are the 5 parameters that we use? The age of the patient, the diabetic status, smoking status, blood pressure, and the total cholesterol, and the HDL cholesterol ratio. As you know, HDL is the good cholesterol. So using these 5 parameters, I calculated the risk assessment of developing a cardiovascular event within the next 5 years. Let's start the risk assessment. Here again, let's make it interactive. Who do you want to choose? What's the age of the patient do you want? 50 to 59, C. Okay, diabetic, non-diabetic. So CN, smoker, non-smoker? Smoker, so CNS. Okay, so click on CNS. It'll take you to the next set of parameters. What's the average blood pressure of the patient? These are the 5 parameters which I assume you know of the patient. What's the blood pressure would you like to choose? 140 by 85. Okay, so let's go to the 140 by 85 row. What's his cholesterol HDL ratio? Remember, the low values are the better ones, high values are the bad ones. Low values means his HDL is, the low values means his HDL is high. Sorry, HDL is very high, yes. So which one do you want to choose? Okay, you want to choose 7. So what was the BP? 140 by 85, number 7. And it gives you, your percent chance of developing a cardiovascular event in the next 5 years is 10 to 15%, which is a moderate risk. Let's take another one. Give me another set of values.
40 to 49.
Okay, so number D, smoke, diabetic, non-diabetic.
Non-diabetic.
DN, smoker, non-smoker.
Smoker.
DNS. Okay, DNS. Blood pressure.
120 by 75.
Okay, 120 by 75. And HDL, cholesterol HDL ratio.
4.
4. Very low risk. Percent of cardiovascular event in 5 years, 2.5 to 5%. So you can see again with 4 clicks of the mouse, we can give you an exact adjusted risk of developing a cardiovascular event in the next 5 years. Yes, this is the horizontal evolutionary type. I can add many more functionality to this. I'll tell you what. Can anybody tell me which functionality I could have added to this? Let's see. Wonderful. I could have added the functionality body mass index, weight over height squared. Any other functionality I can add to this? Male, female. This I've mentioned in the beginning itself that this is applicable to females more because of various other factors in females. Family history is another one which we can add, another functionality. Another is the metabolic syndrome, the waist-hip ratio. People who've got big waist, they also have more height. So we can add these functionalities to this. And yes, Joey, you want to add something else to this? Drug abuse is not one of the direct major risk factors for. That does not mean that you use them, but anyway.
Ethnicity?
So we can add more functionality to it. So this is the horizontal evolutionary prototyping method. So I give you 2 examples of that. Now, before I conclude, let me give you the last bit of what I'm going to say. Okay. Let's say, so this sort of, in a very humorous, anecdotal way, I'm going to summarize and conclude basically what I've been trying to tell you. Let's say we have Dr. Green here, isn't he? I mean, let's say he's a hotshot administrator in a big medical establishment, which he is actually. And he's got $1 million in his pocket. And, and he wants to use that $1 million to implement a system in his institution, a hospital or education institution or whatever. So, okay, he does this research, he studies the vendors who are likely to give him whatever he wants and all the rest of it, and he calls them, they come to him, and he describes it to them. And he tells them, look, this is what I want. I mean, he describes something. Okay, whatever you see there is what he describes, or whatever he thinks he describes. Because after all, he's the customer, so customer is always right. Okay, the sales executive, the marketing man, Dr. Green, don't you worry. I'll give you this. Dr. Green is overjoyed. Of course, of course, of course. I know you'll give me this. So the marketing man promises this. But you see, there are other problems. The team, what about the project leader? The project leader understood this from what Dr. Green has explained to him. And he's trying to he's trying to figure out if this is, then how will it work? I mean, I'm going to keep hitting my butt against something, isn't it? So, then he asks his engineer. The engineer tells him, look, all you do is just cut it, that's all. Okay, then the thing will move, but what about the person sitting on top of it? The programmer says, you guys are nuts. I'm going to be the one writing the code for the software, right? I'm the programmer. So let's see, I'm going to show you what we are going to do. He writes his program for the software, and he tries to do the trial run on it, and it falls flat on his face. So, this thing keeps on happening in the lab. Remember I showed you that multiple sequences of iteration and reiteration, iteration and reiteration. This thing keeps happening, keeps happening, keeps happening. Dr. Green does not know any of these things. He's sleeping happily. And every day, he's dreaming about this one. Because this is what the marketing executive has told him. He's thinking, I'm going to get my nice stuff. 1 month passes by, 2 months passes by, 3 months. 6 months later, they tell him, Dr. Green, we have your system ready. Dr. Green says, yes, yes, show me the system. They come and install the system. And this is what they installed. Dr. Green is scratching his head. What am I supposed to do with this? How am I supposed to make it work? In the meantime, again, not known to him, the whole team, they documented the whole 6-month project. And how did they document it? This is how they documented it. This is called painting pretty pictures in the sky. They documented it like this. And this is the document which they gave to the help desk. So Dr. Green is really worried because he can't figure out how to use the system. I mean, so he rings up the help desk. Help, I need assistance. Tell me what to do with it. The help desk doesn't relax. Don't worry, just relax. Just do this, cut it off. What do you mean? Yeah, because that's what the document told us. So once you do it, this is going to solve all your problems. Dr. Green is highly frustrated now. System is not working, nobody is able to help him. The help desk is very helpful without being helpful. So what am I supposed to do? And then to add insult to injury, the next day, Dr. Green gets a bill for $5 million because they had billed him for a roller coaster, because they took him on a roller coaster ride. Dr. Green blows his top. He said, I'm going to sue all of you before my lawyer is going to talk to him. I'm going to sue you to the last week. I want a meeting right now. So they all come ashen-faced to his office. Yes, Dr. Green, what can I do for you? So no, I'm not at all happy. What the hell are people doing? And all sorts of things. Okay. Then they ask, okay, Dr. Green, can you please tell us once more, just once more, what is it exactly that you wanted? You dummies, you didn't understand? This is what I wanted for my daughter. So this is what is known as the slip between the cup and the lip in the implementation of any technological system in any institution, medical or otherwise. This is not a perfect world. Perfection is what you aim for. If you achieve it, it's not perfect. This is how things go. So with that, I would like to thank you all for your patience. And thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions or any comments to make? Yes, Ryan.
Dr. Sanjoy, when it comes to systems, it's a combination of keywords, a combination of many variables. And with that, you're going to find your weak links, and with that, you're going to have system failure. So, what do you believe, as you said, we have to have a common aim, a common goal. What do you believe is the best way of finding a solution, of finding a system with that common goal, and eradicating any of those weak links? Do you believe it is potentially doing it by yourself, or do you believe it's still to be delegated?
The weak link is always the user. So therefore, involve the users right from the beta testing stage. till the final acceptance stage. That is what I believe in. And that will iron out many of the problems. As a matter of fact, when all of you go to the hospitals, you will be using electronic medical records. And trust me, as per today's knowledge, 75% of the EMRs and the EHRs which are in existence in US hospitals have some glitch. Physicians are not happy with them. And you will face. I faced it. I clicked on the laboratory information system and it gave me some values which was 3-year-old of the same patient or a patient with the same name and all sorts of things. So this is where the slip in the cup and the lip come. So if the users had been involved right from day one, then these problems will slowly get ironed out. But the most important thing is, first of all, we should know exactly what we want. I want to use a system which will make my work easier. And then we have to go on from that. Actually, it's a very complicated process. It's an iteration and reiteration process. I can keep talking about it.
And then when it does come to the changes that we keep on having consistently with the medical field,
Yes.
it's now about that updating.
That is what is known as future-proof. You should always keep a margin whereby you can add different modules, different functionalities in keeping with the changing times. That is what is known as future-proof systems.
Thanks.
Yes?
I had such an experience when I worked for an organ and tissue bank,
Mm-hmm.
and my frontline staff in the OR morgue, they have to do the tissue recovery, and they must record critical information at
Yes.
critical time. And 2 times this organization tried to implement computerized charting and just failed.
It just failed.
And
It's,
one
I'm
of the
not surprised at
companies,
all.
and they lost a lot of money. The
not
people that
surprised
are
at all.
doing the recoveries 2 and 3 back to back at 4 a.m. just to make an error or miss something on a exam
I
of the
also think
patient, then results in discard of tissue and so on. But what they ended up doing is asking us, the frontline staff, to sit with the company and then design these modules, and we thought we were building the car before we even knew how to drive it. So there was this huge disconnect between, they
Actually,
said, well,
this-
you're the frontline
You're not,
users,
you're
and
not,
you're the
you're
ones
not building
who-"
the car. You're just
Well,
telling
they
them
were
that when I'm
asking
sitting
us-
on the driving seat, this is what I want. They are going to build the car,
They
you
were
tell them this is
asking
what I
us to
want.
actually write the modules.
I can tell you a similar example. I had to call the system developer once at 4 a.m. in the morning because suddenly the system crashed and it was not letting me get anywhere. And they came at 4 a.m. in the morning. I said, look, if I'm awake the whole night, how can you be sleeping? Go on, solve it. Okay. So, yes, Dr. Green.
I think the example about just how complex things can be, we introduced an EMR, or tried to, at WVU when I was there, and if you think about how complex an EMR is, how
Yes.
many different things have to go into it, and then you think about the diversity of your faculty, some of which don't even know how to do email at this point.
Exactly.
I mean, those combinations of the complexity you want with the simplicity you need is a huge challenge.
So, that's why usability, how easy is it for me to use the system, and usefulness, does it make my work easier? It may be useful, it may not be usable, or vice versa. So we have to test both. That's what I was trying to do.
I have one more question.
Yes.
So for that, breast cancer system, is that foreseeable to be used for treatment options? So if you
No,
would
this is just to
overlay-
give you the staging.
I mean, but if you would overlay like ERPR or HER2 new, positive, negative,
No,
could
that's
that
what,
be
I've not
predictive
done
in
the,
terms
I've not
of-
done the estrogen receptor positive and all those things, because this is a clinical staging. Remember, clinical staging is always based on the TNM parameters.
But doesn't
After that,
does
when you do a
have to-
tissue biopsy, then it becomes a histopathological staging. Clinical staging is what I did do in my clinic. When I'm sitting there and the patient is there, I'm giving the clinical stage. After I've removed the tumor and I've sent it for histopathological, then they do a ER positive, ER negative, then we get the...
The system could be developed in
Yes,
that
then it
way.
is, yeah. So that can be made more complex. Everything, there's always scope for expansion. So that's how it works.
One another one, or are you done?
Yeah, I'm done. Anybody else? Oh,
Yeah, they'll ask
If you-
questions as long as you want.
no, if you have the time, I'm ready to answer any questions. Okay, please.
One quick question. Have
Go
you
ahead.
had a chance to validate your cardiovascular testing system with some of the standard scoring methods like Framingham risk or the Reynolds risk?
Framingham, this does not come in that scheme actually. What I've done is I've just given it to those whoever of my colleagues who wanted it. And I said, okay, you try it. That's all I did. Framingham scoring system and all those things I've not validated. Technically, anything you develop has to be validated and all those things. I found it useful for my purpose. I used it, and I gave it to whoever asked me. Yes, Daniel.
Do you find that with the advent of more technology for record keeping that physicians, healthcare providers are stressing out more about how to work the machine as opposed to...
They're stressing out more because of the lack of functionality of the system or lack of usability of the system.
Do you see that taking away from patient care?
Well, many people are complaining that, but if a system is really good, like I said, in an ideal world, everything will be perfect, but then nothing is perfect. If we aim towards perfection, and if the systems are really good, they will not take away from patient care, because this whole process will take me a few seconds. Then my mind can be totally focused. Like the example I gave you. Previously, I had to get up after each patient to go to the chart on the wall. Now I don't have to get up. I could just do it there itself, and I could write on my note that, okay, this patient will cancer stage 2A. So it is in fact helping me. If it is done well, it will help in the patient care. If it is not done well, then it will be a failure.
I am sure that Dr. Sanyal will hang out and answer some more questions, but some of you do need to go study.
Please.